Good afternoon. My name is Krista Kowalik, Program and Communications Manager for North Forge Technology Exchange, and we welcome you to our 6th Manitoba Women in Technology Meetup event of the season. We are now a meetup community of over 800 members, and we are truly excited about bringing you, all of you who love tech, together. If you are new to Remo as a platform, please find the quick video tutorial in the chat on how to use the features. For those who are joining us for the first time, we are a nonprofit, agenda-free, and gender-inclusive group. Together with our allies, we support each other, share experiences, applaud accomplishments, and promote tech activities in a safe, judgment-free environment. Our events are brought to you by the combined forces of Tech Manitoba, New Media Manitoba, and North Forge Technology Exchange. We host events each month for anyone working in and with tech, and who would like to meet other women and allies working with technology. We are a vibrant community in Manitoba, and joining these events is a great way to experience that firsthand. We respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting virtually on the ancestral lands of Treaty 1 territory, the traditional gathering place of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene people, and the traditional homeland of the Red River Métis people. We have a code of conduct for all of the events that basically says, be kind and support each other. We encourage you to access our code through the link in the chat. We also regularly survey our attendees to ensure that the content we provide and the format of our gatherings works for the majority who wish to attend. We will continue to hold our events every month, but might switch up the timing so that we have a variety of times to ensure we reach as many of you as possible. We are very fortunate to have Manitoba Women in Tech ambassadors who work in the tech industry in attendance today. It is likely you have one at your table now. Shout out to our amazing volunteers. They have kindly volunteered their time to facilitate conversation and answer questions you may have about this meetup group, Remo, the local tech community, or connecting you with other like-minded individuals. Our ambassadors have changed their profiles, to include the designation ambassador, so that you can identify them. When you click on the round avatars of people at each table, you will see that small description pop up. All right, so let's hop right into introducing our amazing guest speaker, Mary Lobson, founder and CEO of REES, an online platform for reporting sexual harassment, misconduct, and assault. She has over 25 years experience in the gender-based field and became involved at the intersection of technology and gender-based violence in 2009. Welcome to the stage, Mary.
Hi, Krista. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. Welcome to the stage. Go ahead and take it.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Okay, I've never done this before, so I'm going to click my share button. Nope. Try that. There we go. Can you guys see my screen? Can you give me a heads up, Tina? Okay, I'm going to make the assumption that you can. So I just want to thank everyone for coming. I am here based in Winnipeg on Treaty 1 territory, and my pronouns are she, her. I want to thank Manitoba Women in Tech for inviting me tonight. I was thinking about the last time I actually spoke, and it was International Women's Day of 2020. So March, I think it was March 7th. And Winnipeg Tech Makers, Women Tech Makers Winnipeg had an event celebrating International Women's Day. And really, for me, that was the last time we gathered, because COVID came very shortly after that, and the world as we know it has changed. And it's interesting because that was a live event. Now I'm doing an online event, and I said in some ways this is more kind of stressful in that you're reliant on the technology in a way that we weren't. And certainly over this last 2 years, we've seen the use of technology and the emergence of technology in a number of different ways. So I'm excited to be here tonight. I'm excited to share a bit of my story and kind of thinking about that and thinking, what would folks want to know? What's of interest to people? And how do we kind of move through the evening in a way that not only can share my experience, but also maybe can have you leave here tonight with some things that might be helpful for you. So about me, I've lived in Winnipeg since 1986. Actually, I came here to go to university. I'm a mom, blended family with 5 sons who are now ages 17 to going to be 27. Have a husband and a dog. Love going to the lake, and really have worked in the gender-based violence field as Krista had mentioned, for over 25 years. That's always been the space that I've worked in. And tonight, while I'm going to talk about REES, I just want to set the stage a little bit for that. In that REES is the company that I've started, but I started 2 organizations prior to that. So in some ways, I think of myself as a bit of a serial entrepreneur, having started 3 things, but they're different things. In 1996, I started a company or started a business to do supervised access in custody cases. And I had sought out information about other models that existed. There weren't many in Canada. And the ones that were around were mostly in the US. And so I actually started it as a business, and then recognized as I started to get into it that the benefits of being a not-for-profit organization outweighed the benefits of being a company and having a share versus non-share capital. And so I made a really deliberate decision to transition from being a company to being a not-for-profit organization and subsequently a charity. And I'll circle back to that later, but that considering of structure was really important for that organization in terms of allowing it to move forward, and it still exists today, some 20 plus years later. I stayed there until about 2016, 17, and then started a not-for-profit organization, a provincial organization relating to gender-based violence, and did that work for a couple years, and it really kind of was the stepping stone to developing REES. I guess I'll speak to just a little bit of kind of during that time, and kind of getting to the place where I started REES. I became involved with North Forge in 2019, before I'd incorporated. Well, this was still an idea for me, and decided to engage there in programming. To learn more, to fill in my gaps. I knew that I had run 2 not-for-profit organizations, and I knew that while there's lots of similarities and lots of overlap, there was also going to be differences in that, and things that I needed to learn. And I was open to doing that and to learning more. And so that was really important for kind of setting the stage for once I began to move forward. So that's kind of a little bit about where I was before I came here. Being a female founder, being a woman in tech, I think we know that on the investment side of things, from venture capital investors, only about 2% of women founded companies actually get investments, and so there can be challenges raising capital. Folks are bootstrapping. And I guess I was aware of barriers or potential barriers as I started coming into this and started to learn more. Certainly I heard that 2% number. I heard that female founders generally got founded less. I heard that solo founders as well, kind of statistically speaking, were funded less frequently, and that often they were looking more to co-founders. I also heard that as a non-technical founder, that might be a barrier for me without having that technical expertise. So these were a number of different things that I heard as I went along. And And then I guess another one is really being from Winnipeg. And, you know, in Canada, obviously folks know where we are, but certainly in the larger tech ecosystem and looking to folks in the States, anytime I was meeting with people in the US, I would say I'm an hour from the North Dakota border, and that could kind of position where we might be from. So I had heard that all of these things, you know, were going to potentially be barriers, and I'm excited to announce tonight, and we've not really put this out publicly, that we just finished closing a pre-seed round. So we're very excited about that with 4 investors who are based in the U.S. And so I think the timeliness of startup to scale up couldn't be better. And when I was asked to do this, I kind of knew that we were closing that. So I'm excited that the timing worked out, that we've officially closed that with a goal of expansion, not only across Canada, but also into the US. I'm going to talk a little bit about the company that I founded called REES. So it stands for Respect, Educate, Empower Survivors. And as Krista mentioned, it's an online platform for reporting sexual violence. I created the platform so it could be adapted for use across any sector or any industry. And I started in the post-secondary market, so having it available for use at colleges and universities here in Canada. I launched REES in September of 2020, and now we're in 6 provinces. We're in BC, Manitoba, Ontario, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Quebec as of tomorrow, actually. So we're super excited to launch. The platform is available in English and French, and as well bilingual. And with this new investment, we will be expanding the work that we're doing, our operations, into the US as well. In addition to the campus environment, as I mentioned, REES can be adapted for use across any sector or any industry. It can be used in workplaces, it can be used in sports, it can be used in high schools, in municipalities, really anywhere people are or people are gathering, the platform could be used in those spaces. And so we're also pleased, and for some folks may have seen this already, that we announced earlier this week that we've partnered with North Forge to make the platform available to their portfolio companies, to their founders, and really to the folks involved in their ecosystem. I think we know that sexual violence is prevalent across campuses, communities, and workplaces, but very few people actually report. And so the intention of REES is to reduce barriers to reporting, to increase reporting pathways, and create a space where they're being provided information about supports and resources. So that's kind of a little bit about kind of REES and kind of how we got here and where we are today. I wanted to talk about 6 things that have really been helpful for me in, you know, when thinking of the founder journey and thinking of my own experience. So I'm going to kind of launch into that now and talk about these 6 things. The first one I had on my list is build your dream network. And I think Lori Wheeler's on the call, but Tech Manitoba had done an event a number of years ago now, where they brought in a woman named Kelly Huey, who had written a book called Build Your Dream Network. And we were given the book when we attended. It was a networking session about networking. And I'm not a super chatty person. I'm not a super extroverted person. And so networking for me is something that I find challenging. I struggle with chit chat. I like to have kind of more meaningful conversations about stuff. And I went to this network or this networking event, and have actually since stayed connected with Kelly. But her book is about thinking about your network and who's in your network, but then also thinking about who are the people you want to have in your network in the future. So I have the kind of 2 points up here of who are the people that I already know and who are the people that I want to know in the future. And I think a really yeah, it was really valuable to me to think, I started thinking about REES in 2016, or not about REES because REES didn't exist fully in my mind, but I knew I wanted to go to this place of reporting. And so I thought about who are the people I wanted to know, and maybe not specific people, but are there spaces that I wanted to be in that might be helpful for me, or that I could be in and learn about. And I think a good example, again, kind of relating back to Tech Manitoba, is that I started to go more and more events. And I knew that I was, at some point, I didn't really know the when of that, but I would be moving into that tech space. And so I started going to more events, and I learned about the Maven initiative, where they were focusing on gender equality and gender parity for women in tech, women in STEM. And so I started being around more and just being present. And at some point, kind of bending the ear of Lori and Amanda Ems, who was there at the time, saying, I'm really interested in this. And it was new, this notion of gender-based violence in technology, and how did those kind of fit together. And I remember really clearly meeting Lori and her coming up to me and saying, you know what, I saw a thing about the Internet of an article or something like that on the Internet of Things that was exactly talking about gender-based violence and technology, and hadn't really thought about that before. And so I was able to become involved in the Maven network, or the Maven leadership group around this. And it was really kind of a starting point and a catalyst for getting to know folks in the technology space, in the technology ecosystem here. I learned about North Forge. And as I mentioned, I started going to programming when it was in person, probably summer of 2019, about 6 months before I even started. So really thinking about kind of your future self. Are there folks and communities that you'd like to be a part of? The next thing I wanted to mention is, or to talk a little about, is doing your research. It's really important, I think, when you're starting a company or starting a business of some kind, obviously to really understand your space, understand how you're going to work in that space, who your customers are, who your ideal customer profile is, what your competitive advantage is, all of those things. And I just had a conversation with someone this morning about really also taking the time to understand your competition. What did they do differently than you? What did they do maybe better than you? What do you do differently and perhaps better than them? And really taking the time to understand that, because it can help you in thinking about your positioning with respect to your marketing, and as you do reach out to potential customers. We spent a lot of time trying to understand generally the market that we were coming into with respect to campuses. And I had some significant knowledge because of my gender-based violence work. But also understanding the nuances that might be different, in different spaces or different communities, and really taking the time to do research in the area that you're working. Another thing that I have come to realize is important is saying yes. And I think there's a Jim Carrey movie with that title or something like that, where he goes through the movies and he's supposed to say yes to every opportunity that comes his way. And I would echo that. I've been so fortunate to, over the last really 2 years, to be provided so many opportunities for learning. Many of them I've sought out, but also ones have just come to me. And I've learned, the more you put yourself out there, the more stuff is, I believe that the more you put out, the more will come back to you. There's extensive programming, especially if you're in the tech space, in the startup space. And I think COVID has been horrible for many reasons, but it has made the world smaller, and has increased our ability to be connecting with people, far outside of our geographic location. I've been able to not only participate here with North Forge, I've been involved with Innovation Guelph. I've been a part of Forum Ventures, which used to be called Scaleup. which was an accelerator out of San Francisco, New York, and Toronto. I'm now becoming involved in an incubator out of Ohio. And there's just so many opportunities for learning. And so I encourage you to explore those, and also to think about, as I say, programming outside of here. Yeah, there's really just so much, and certainly North Forge, Tech Manitoba, there's lots of good resources to learn about what those programming opportunities are. IRAP for me as well has been a really significant. They're not a partner in our work, but I kind of think of them as partners. Margot Shaw has been our rep there, and through IRAP, we've had the opportunity to be connected with different opportunities for funding through Innovation Guelph, participating in a women's only program called Rise Up, which was really important for us. We just finished a project with something called Innocentre in Quebec, in Montreal. And there just really is a wealth of opportunities out there if you're open to them. I had on the slide earlier that I'm a solo founder, and while on one hand that's true, on paper it's definitely true. I certainly don't think of myself that way. I've had so many folks that have been involved in our community, like the REES community, that's what we call it, who've been mentors, advisors, supporters. We have been fortunate, as I've already mentioned a few, with North Forge, Tech Manitoba, Innovation Guelph, IRAP. We in 2020 into 2021, I applied to be something called a SheEO venture in Canada. And if you haven't heard of SheEO, they are a network of 7,000 women around the world. They're in 5 countries. And they call them activators. They're women who come together, pool resources to then support ventures that are led by women and non-binary folks. And being a part of the SheEO community, they're kind of, one of the things they talk about is radical generosity, and that we have what we need, and it's about kind of power with rather than power over, and really working together to create new systems of doing things. And so I've been very fortunate to, again, be connected there with mentors and other folks. So, looking for those people who can support the work that you're doing, support you as a founder, because I think it's important to have those business mentors and advisors, but also those individuals in your circle or in your community that can be supportive to you as a founder. It's I don't want to say it's a lonely journey. It hasn't been a lonely journey for me because I've had so much support. But I certainly see that unless you seek that out, it can be more challenging. So I definitely encourage folks to explore the communities and the opportunities for mentorship and advisors that might be around them. The next point I wanted to just kind of talk about, and I say don't be afraid, and I won't say for a moment that I'm fearless, because I'm not fearless, but I think for me, I've not let my fear of doing things limit the choices that I've made, or the opportunities that I've explored, or the paths that I've got down. My husband always kind of talks about my ability to ask for the things that I want from people, kind of no matter how big the ask, but not being afraid to do it. And I think for me, I want to give people the opportunity to say no for themselves, rather than jumping to the place in my own thinking that it's going to be a no. They're they wouldn't want to participate in something like this, or they wouldn't want to be involved in what we're doing. Because people often, surprisingly, if you ask them, they're interested in supporting. And I think a good example of this is we have a chief technical advisor who came on in October, and his name is Chris Durossi, and I had met him or been connected with him through Forum Ventures. And when I had been connected with him, they had said, you know what, we want you to meet this man. He's super experienced. He was the architect or chief architect for the Apple operating system. He's been very involved as a serial founder, has extensive experience in technology and architecture. I was told in that conversation, you know, I know nothing will come of this kind of, but he's just someone I'd like you to meet. So I met Chris. I was introduced to Chris, and we hopped on a call. And I asked if he was interested in joining our team as an advisor, and he said absolutely. And so we're thrilled to have him come on, and he overwhelmingly makes up for my deficits as a non-technical founder. Another example of this, which I think is kind of interesting for the folks that know Wadud Ibrahim at Protegra. When I was very early on, I didn't know how I was going to make a platform, didn't have a clue. And I actually I want to say I went through the phone book. I didn't, because I Googled, but I Googled like software development in Winnipeg. And I got a bunch of names, and I sat going through their websites. And when I got to Protegra's, something resonated with me. I liked the way it talked about and valued the people that work there. So it wasn't really about the technology, but it was about the people. And so I phoned them up, total cold call. I got connected with Wadud. I told him what I was wanting to do. And he said, you know, why don't you come meet with me? So I met with him. And that really, we're still working with Protegra. They're our key kind of strategic partner on the technical side of things. And I met with him and said, you know what, I want to build this thing. Is this something you could do? What are your thoughts on it? And he's really been a mentor to me. But the point of the story is, don't be afraid to ask, which I think totally ties to number 2, is don't be afraid to be rejected. You know, there's going to be people who say no. I would say usually it's not personal. It's, you know, maybe situational or timing or whatever it might be, but not to make assumptions about what people are going to do. Another point I would want to make now that I probably wouldn't have made this point 2 years ago, because I was really trying to soak up every opportunity that was in front of me. And I think now, 2 years later, I really have to, tying it to number 4, I have to guard my time. There are only so many hours in a day, and I'm finding increasingly the need to be focused. And so there are opportunities that come my way, or that are presented, that I have to say no to. And so I really am trying to guard that in a way that, as I say, I wouldn't have previously. And those shiny things, or those things that would be so awesome or fun to do or exciting to do, I have to be willing to say no and guard my time. The other thing I want to mention, now moving into number 5, is not being afraid to pivot. I am, and women don't usually share this, but I'm 53. And if you do the math, I was 51 when I started REES, or started going down this path. And again, working always in the gender-based violence field, mostly in the nonprofit space, and starting to look at the intersection of technology and gender-based violence in about 2009. You know, my husband was at the verge of retiring just when I started REES. And I think for me, you know, it's an exciting time. It's exciting to be doing something new, something that I love and I'm super passionate about. But you know, being willing to explore those options, explore the spaces that give you joy and that you love, and that you can, you know, maybe turn into a career or turn into a company, or whatever that might be. The last thing I want to say on this slide is, don't be afraid to understand your finances. And I have heard it over time, and I've seen it over time, that women and money, I don't know how to really describe it other than to say is it can kind of be a thing, and it can be a challenge. I now have I'll say a relationship with someone based out of Edmonton. It's an accounting firm out of Edmonton, and I'm sure that there's lots of amazing ones all over the place. But for me, I've had I call it trauma, with respect to different experiences I've had either with bookkeepers or in different spaces, and wanting to find people that can really help me understand my financial position. And I think as a founder, as a startup, it's critical that you take the time to understand your financial position, how to do projections, how to understand, if you're going down the path of venture capital, how to understand that. And there's lots of good programs and information available, but really taking the time to sink into understanding finances. And I know that can be a tough one sometimes for folks. The next one I have up here, and really this is the last one, often we see that there are, playbooks for sales or playbooks for startups or playbooks for this and that. There are lots of playbooks, but at the end of the day, it's about what playbook makes sense for you and the thing that you are building. REES could be viewed as social impact, as a social impact technology, as a social impact or a social enterprise. We like to position ourselves as a B2B SaaS model. So that's a business to business software as a service, because it's viewed differently than social impact. And I think that's just a reality. It's not it's been my experience so far that social impact is held in a different place. And from an investor perspective, that ability to scale and that need for patient capital is different when we're talking about social impact. But when I go look for resources relating to scaling a gender-based violence solution, there's really nothing there. And we know that the language has to be different. We know that people's experience with this issue can be such that, we have to have a sensitivity to it in a way that's maybe different if you're selling some kind of other type of platform. So really thinking about what makes sense for you, for your company, at the stage you're at the age you're at. I'm fortunate, or I don't know, fortunate, but I'm at a different place in that my kids are older. And for me personally, I don't know that I could be doing what I'm doing now when my kids were still playing basketball and football and going to dance and choir and all of those things. It would have been challenging for me. So it's really thinking about, what makes best for you at the time that you're at, in the situation that you're in. And then the other thing I would want to say is really about trusting your instincts. And that can be good or can be bad. When I had opportunity with this new funding round, to meet some investors, they're based out of Ohio, and they asked if I'm willing to set up a Delaware C Corp as a company. And I didn't even hesitate. And I know for me and for SAS, we want to expand as broadly as we can. The opportunity to be connected with folks at U.S. post-secondary institutions, so in higher ed, was really important to us. So someone else may not have made that decision 6 months ago. I probably wouldn't have made that decision, or maybe 8 months ago, I would have been nervous about it or concerned about it, but not even a hesitation. And so I've become kind of comfortable and maybe more confident in listening to how I'm feeling about something or how I'm responding to something. And if there are flags up, or there's something kind of making me feel uncomfortable, that for me is a reason to give pause, to think, is this something I really want to do? Or, something is sitting off with me and I need to really pay attention to that. So really just kind of paying attention to how you're feeling about the work that you're doing and the decisions you're making as you go along. So that really is some of the things that I wanted to share with you tonight. I'm happy to see if there's any questions and answer those. So thank you. Hopefully there's some nuggets in there that you can take away, especially if you're a founder who is starting out or somewhere in your journey.
Thank you so much, Mary. Wow, that was incredible. It's been an incredible journey, and it will be remarkable to watch you continue.
Thank you.
Um,
How do I?
if you can, are you able to stop sharing your screen? Or
Maybe,
there we
maybe I am. There
go.
we are. Okay, there we go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so at this point, we are going to go through the questions and answers here. Oh, looks like your screen popped up here. There we go.
There we go. Okay.
And perfect. So what I'll do, Mary, is I'll read them for you,
Okay.
but I am just going to do just a little quick note to everyone in case you're unaware of how the question and answer works here on Remo. You can certainly enter your question on the Q&A portion, just on the right-hand side of your screen, and take a look at some of the existing questions that are there already, because what you can do is vote on some of the existing questions, and that pushes them to the top to have them answered first, okay? Okay, so I'm just going to go all the way down the row here. We'll start at the top. Mary, can you speak about work-life balance as the founder of a startup? Great question.
That's kind of hard to come by, a work-life balance. I think it is very, very heavily on the work side right now. And the reality is starting a startup is hard work. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. Nancy, I see is on this call, and we talk about, or I've talked with her about this notion of kind of vignettes and grabbing chunks of time. I may not have time for a full weekend off, but I can make sure that I'm carving out time to do things that are important to me, or spending time with my family and people that are important to me. So it's kind of rethinking work-life balance, and I've heard it more thought around kind of harmony, and finding harmony in my life related to work, and and the rest of the things that are important and matter to me. That's a good question.
Thank you. I love that harmony. That's perfect. Next question. Do you have any tips on how to deal with imposter syndrome? Excuse me.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't. I think it's, I think it's, I feel like on one hand I should stay composed and have this serious response to this, but I think it's, I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but like I think imposter syndrome creeps up. And I know there's some people that don't think it's a thing, or it shouldn't be a thing. So you can call it whatever you want, but that doubt, even when I was asked to speak today, and initially sure, and then it's like, well, who wants to listen to what I have to say, right? Or now moving into a new sector, a new market in our work, it's like, are we okay to do that? How do we feel about that? So it just creeps in, and I think it's just setting the fear aside, setting the the lack of confidence that creeps in. When I truly think about it, I know that I've been working in the space for 25 years. I'm knowledgeable. I understand my technology. So I can logically move myself away from imposter syndrome, but I think it's not really a kind of a rational, logical um, thinking that we're having in the times that we're feeling it. It's more of an emotional kind of response to it. So you just got to go through it, and I think it gets better over time. But I don't like. I guess we'll see at the end of the day if it ever goes away. But I just, yeah, I think it's a thing that's there, and you level up. You level up at, I used to be an imposter. Like when I was 27, and I started the not-for-profit organization, I called myself a program coordinator. I could not call myself an executive director, because I thought, oh, I was 27. I felt young. I didn't feel like I had earned that. I felt like people were going to look at me a particular way, and so I didn't have it. And eventually, I grew into the role, and so I think we grow in and level up into that imposter where we can kind of set it aside.
You certainly leveled up. I agree with that.
Thanks, Krista.
I think you've showed us all that this evening.
Thank you.
If you had to do it all over again, Mary,
Mm.
what, if anything, would you do differently?
Mm-hmm. You know what? Not much. Not much. Not. I don't know that I would. Bleh. I think you don't go into this knowing how it's going to go, and you make choices as you go along. And I don't really have any regrets about choices. I'm someone who believes that you regret the things you don't do more than the things you do. And as I said before, I've tried to be open to every opportunity that comes my way. I think maybe being a little more organized, that's what I would do. I can be a bit of a kind of a procrastinator, and that's something that I'm working on. But in terms of the kind of the growth and the way things have moved forward, I have no regrets on that. Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. I hear you on the organization. Marcy, our programming and executive assistant here at North Forge, will tell you they are working on my organization.
Yes, I'm the big picture.
Yeah,
the big picture stuff, I'm there. The granular, that's not my forte.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, this is an interesting question, and it goes back to one of the stories you told here tonight, Mary. So, if finance is not your strength, how do you know how to trust a financial advisor for your organization?
That's a great question. So I would say it was not my strength, and you have to do the work to. You got to learn. You got to learn it for yourself. Basically, obviously you want to have trusting relationships, but you can't put all your trust and faith in a person. You have to take the time to learn it and to understand it, be able to read a balance sheet, be able to do your own forecasting, especially early on. You don't have a team of people to be able to do that. We're only 4 people. It's taking courses. There was a great course through the forum out of Vancouver. I believe there's been courses offered through North Forge. I would say really take advantage of all of the learnings that are out there. And I would say if you're a woman founder, also take ones that are specifically geared towards women, because I think there are some nuanced differences, and they deal with some of the other kind of considerations around women in finance. And so I really encourage people to learn, because you don't want to be reliant solely on other folks external to your company.
Point. And certainly those organizations exist to support and educate, so that founders don't need to be experts on everything, but can certainly get that base level understanding.
Yeah, I'll just with what you said, I'll just speak quickly to that. Like, we're a team of 4 people. We work with a marketing company here, a branding company, and I think of them as our kind of fractional head of marketing. We've got the company that we work for, the accounting company. We have bookkeepers, we have accountants. There's a team of people there, and as a startup, you don't have resources for all those things. So it's really thinking about, where can I get fractional bits? Because you don't need money, but you don't need full-time people. Or, I mean, you don't need a lot of money, or you don't have a lot of money, and you don't need full-time people. So really thinking about how do you kind of buy bits of time from people in order to move things along for yourself.
That's a great tip. What do you look forward to most about owning your business?
That's a good question. Well, and I think the answers are like, you have your own company, you have freedom, and you can do what you want, and you can set your hours. I work a lot of hours every day, and I work a lot of hours every week. But I think for me, I've been very fortunate in my life. If you've heard that saying, if you love what you do, you never work a day. I would say that I've been fortunate to hardly work a day in my life, because I've loved the work that I've done. For me, I love seeing the growth. I love seeing the expansion. I love that tomorrow we're launching in Quebec. I love that we're expanding into the US, and can hardly wait to get our US school. So for me, the the driver at REES in particular is the impact I know we're making. And so every school, North Forge, every new place, we're impacting the people in those community, and we're creating safer spaces. So that's what I look forward to the most, is to continue doing the work.
That's huge, Mary. Incredible.
It's exciting.
It is exciting. Okay. What's one piece of advice you would have for potentially a new startup founder?
I'm going to say two things that are going to sound opposed. I'm going to say be ready, but don't let it stop you. Those are kind of opposed to one another, but like you have to be in a mindset of, I'm going to do this. I'm some of the things I said, you can't step into it being afraid to do it or reluctant in doing it. You have to go all in, or in my experience, maybe that might be different for someone else, but you really have to be committed to it and be all in. That would be my biggest, I think, thing is to think about. Yeah.
I think you hit it right on the nose in terms of who we see collaboratively as a whole from North.
Yeah.
That mindset is such a key piece. That's a great piece.
Yeah.
Did you at any time feel discouraged to the point of quitting due to challenges?
No, and I'll say that the other day, actually, I was driving my son to school. He's in grade 12. I was taking him to school, and I said, Everett, I have a question for you. And we started talking about failure. And I said to him, this is really weird, but failure is not in my vocabulary. And it's not in my vocabulary because I don't fail, but it's not in my vocabulary because I don't think of it as a failure. Like I don't think I failed if something didn't go a particular way. I just think it was wrong timing, or it wasn't for lack of effort. Like there's the failure can be attributed to so many different things or different reasons. What was that question again? Say that question again.
It's disappeared on me here, but I believe it was in the flavor of, was there any time where you...
that I was going to quit?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been super fortunate, and I think it's been very just one foot in front of the other, not sure of where it's going to go, not sure of where those footsteps are going to lead. But at no point have I thought I would quit. No. It's not in me.
The sign of a true founder. All right. This one is stating, the person says, I'm in tech and I need a mentor to help me through the raising capital, etc. Any suggestions where you would start?
If I can, I'm going to give a plug. I don't know if I'm allowed to give a plug, but the course that's available through North Forge for Class Rebel. So there's a course on venture capital and finance through Class Rebel. I definitely would highly recommend that as a course. Brooke Harley is awesome, and it really helps to unpack that. And just gives a really good overview. Like, it's complicated. And I don't know if everyone would agree with this statement, but I kind of think raising capital is a bit like having a baby. Like, everyone talks about it and, everyone's got their own experience with it, but no two processes are alike. I had this vision of, you have to have 100 people on your list and you're going to meet with 98 of them and they're all going to say no to you. And that wasn't my experience. And so there's not the process is going to be different for everyone. I think I would take the time to learn about venture capital. I think there's differences between Canada and the US. So spend time learning about those different ecosystems, thinking about, do you prioritize perhaps capital in one place other than the other place? And that for me related to more where the capital is coming from and wanting US investors who could help speed growth for me in the US. Yeah, if that person wants to connect with me after, or my email's Reese or Mary at reescommunity.com, you can certainly shoot me an email. But because I'd be happy to go further into that with you if you want.
Great answer. And I believe the specific course through Class Rebel that you're referencing there is called Angels 101.
No, that's not the course. That's a
not
course.
Thank you. Okay.
That's a course if you want to be an investor. The course
fundraising
for
101?
Fundraising 101.
Thank you. Sorry, I had the two mixed up.
Mixed
Thank
up.
you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. You mentioned you are a serial entrepreneur. What do you wish you knew before you took on multiple companies at the same time?
That's a tough one. Yeah, I don't necessarily. So the way that, so there was kind of an overlap between two. It can become a challenge. You get to or I got to the point where I needed to separate things and move out of one into another. And so it can be challenging thinking about how to do that and what way is the best way to do that. And I think when you're going through something, you don't necessarily know what's the best way. And then after you do it, you kind of can look back and reflect. But I think you kind of just, you make the best choices with the information that you have at the time. So I think there's no regrets about the path.
Okay. Do you have any other projects that you're currently working on?
No, because I don't have time
to do.
Yeah. There's no room at the inn on this one. And I guess that would be another thing to think of. Like for me, it's been important to really stay focused, because it's easy to see something else that's exciting and could draw your attention away. I feel fortunate in the company in REES that it is, because we call them pillars, 3 pillars of REES: campus, community, and workplace. That I was working on REES Community the other day and could be talking with municipalities or in the sports space, and then be talking on the corporate side, and then be talking with the campus. So there's a lot of variation in terms of our markets, and that really keeps it interesting. And so it's like they're new things, but they're not really. It's all under the same umbrella, but it keeps it super interesting for me.
That does sound very interesting. Oh, okay. So we have another question regarding the fundraising process. Just looking for advice and insights regarding the fundraising process. If there's anything additional you'd like to share?
Yeah. What do I want to say? Find people who know more than you do. Get people in your circle that are trusted, that can be advisors. Especially if it's a first investment or early on, making sure that you have a lawyer that can review your documents. I was super fortunate. I participated in Forum Ventures, the accelerator. And so I had someone, that I could text in the night, or that I could text on the weekend. If I got an email or a question or something from an investor, I had a go-to person that I could ask. So I think finding your go-to people who understand, the difference between a safe, the difference, between a lead investor or angel investors, understanding the language, what is pro rata, what is equity, like all of those things. Just, yeah. So I think I'll go back to that learning piece and educating yourself, but then also finding those trusted people who can help guide you and answer your questions, because you don't want to make a decision. You once you go down the path, you kind of can't undo it, and you can't go back. And I've heard it said, and I am a divorced person. I've heard it said that, you know, getting out of a marriage is much easier, or much easier than getting out of a relationship with an investor. And so you really want to be careful about who you're letting in to your company. And so would surely do due diligence on them as well. You know, getting references about who other portfolio companies they have worked with. I think thinking about as well, do you want investors who are hands-on, or do you want investors who are going to give you money and kind of let you do your thing? Because those are very different. You might want the support, or you might just want the capital. And again, every founder is going to be different in terms of what they want and what they need. So really thinking about, what do you need to move your company forward? And you can listen to the advice and stuff of other people, but at the end of the day, it's about what you need to advance your work.
Absolutely. That's great advice, Mary. Okay, and this is actually the last question that I have for you tonight. How did you choose the software developers you wanted to work with?
Well, it was a bit of this on a map. It was that to begin with. Definitely when I worked with when I connected with Protegra. For me, what has mattered is working. For me, it's what's mattered is finding a partner that we didn't hire a company to make something for us. We engaged in a partnership, and that's how we think a lot of our work. We have a partnership with them, and they are on the development side of things. It really mattered to us that our values were aligned as companies, how we value the people that we work with, how we work together, that they also considered us as partners in that relationship. Obviously, you want folks who are technically sound. I think for me, what's been important and part of guiding a decision not to have an in-house technical team at this point has been, we want the ability to scale up and scale down based on the needs that, like, from customers. And so while we technically have no technical people, having a strategic partnership where there are 50 whatever employees allows us access to architects, developers, whatever the different needs we have on the tech side, and we can scale that up and scale that down. And so for a startup, for me, that's been super important.
Excellent. We have one more question that's popped in here,
Okay.
and I think it's an important one here. So we are go ahead and ask it of you.
Okay.
What is inspiring you every day?
To make change. Like I think my life's work has been about change. And I think that this is an opportunity to, my work has mostly been at the local level, either in Winnipeg or in Manitoba. And we are making change much more broadly. Broadly across sectors. There'll be some exciting announcements in the coming weeks about new verticals that we're going into. I think we are creating conversations in spaces that they weren't happening before. In the case of North Forge, I'll use that as an example. Being able to come on and present to the portfolio companies and have North Forge be in a position where they're talking about, we want a safe environment for, a safe, inclusive, diverse environment, and we're putting actual mechanisms in place to support that for groups, or for the founders that come through. And so we're helping to initiate conversations, and hopefully in the big picture, shifting culture related to gender-based violence. So I think for me, that's what keeps me going every day. Plus, it's exciting. It's exciting to make things. Like there's the impact, but then it's exciting to build things and to make things, and to have an idea and see that idea come to life is really cool.
Absolutely, it is. It's phenomenal, the
That's
change and
cool.
impact you've had so far. It's just incredible. Um,
Thanks.
Mary, what are you grateful for so far on your journey?
Just all of it, all of it, all of it, all of it. And I guess I would boil that down to the people, like the people that I have met, the team that I work with, Nicole and Carter and Nell, places like North Forge and Innovation Guelph. Again, Nancy's on the call. The people who have supported us. Um, I uh, uh, I hopped on a call last spring with Uniting the Prairies, and if there's startup folks or founders here, I would encourage you to go to Uniting the Prairies, which is probably coming up in June.
Yeah.
And if you don't know of that, it's an event. There's some out of Saskatchewan. There's some coursework, and then you get some mentor meetings. And I went to it last year, and I met with 3 mentors, and I always Google them ahead of time. And I kind of thought, I'm not sure I'm not sure that these are going to be great kind of one-on-one meetings, but we'll go with them and whatever. And one of the guys I met with, his name was Jonah, and I literally hopped on the call with him, and he just said, "I love what you are doing." And I just thought, I don't know this guy, never seen this guy. When I looked at him on LinkedIn, I thought he's totally not going to be interested in what we're doing. And so I think for hearing that what we're doing is making a difference for people or resonating with people or it matters to them, that's what I'm grateful for. And it's really the community around us that has enabled us to be able to do this. I couldn't have done this. It's all of us working together. So I'm grateful for the community we're part of, or the communities, because there's lots of them that we're part of.
That's incredible. Thank you so much, Mary. This has just been incredible. I'm sure everybody here will agree that your stories and advice tonight have just been invaluable. Truly,
Thank
thank you.
you. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody.
So, thank you for being here, for the conversation, for answering everyone's questions. You're truly an inspiration to all of
Thank you.
us. You really are. As well to thanks to all of our attendees tonight and ambassadors, community at large as well for being a part of this evening. On behalf of the Manitoba Women in Tech Organizing Committee, we really hope that you found value in today's meetup. As always, we would love to hear your feedback on the event and any suggestions for future meetups. Please take a moment to fill out our post-event survey. You will find a link in the chat and it should be emailed to you shortly. Make sure to look out for our Manitoba Women in Tech emails and updates about our 2022 events through the Meetup platform. Our next event will be Wednesday, March 16th at 6 p.m., where our very own Jessica Watson of TurnYourselfUp.com will be leading a workshop called Build Your Confidence, Techniques to Empower Your Inner Mentor. Do you ever hear a little voice in your head that says, don't do it, you shouldn't, or you can't? Are you one of the many people in tech who face imposter syndrome? I think we talked about that. In this 1.5-hour interactive workshop, we're going to explore ways to change your mindset and tap into our inner mentor when we need it most. Thank you all for coming out to this evening, and to all the ambassadors and promotional partners for your support. Thank you to our amazing executive committee and to our funding partners for making these events possible. Thanks to Jessica Watson for supporting our Tech Manitoba team. Please feel free to stick around and network and chat with those at your table or up to another table. The Remo event will remain open until 7:15 p.m. We look forward to seeing you at our next event. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mary.